Over the next couple days, we're going to start to take you through a continuum, and we have already a little bit, but step by step, what's the process? And the first step that I have here is actually looking at what's prospecting. What do we need to do to find the names of individuals who we think you could be challenging and appeal? First of all, we're going to look at where to find your major financial partners. Now, that's never easy. In a ministry like Campus Crusade for Christ, you would think it would be very, very easy. And for years, we had names of individuals who were available, but unfortunately, what happened is from ministry to ministry to ministry, we do a lot of shuffling of the donors. And it's a little bit different within our environment right now. A lot of what we need to be thinking about is what can we do to find new names, individuals. Larry mentioned differentiation between two terms yesterday. We haven't discussed it yet this morning, but the difference between prospects and suspects. The difference is that suspects are individuals who you know have wealth, but they might not necessarily have an interest or even any knowledge in Campus Crusade for Christ. A prospect is someone who actually at least has a knowledge of Campus Crusade for Christ, and you think this person might be someone who might be interested in hearing about the ministry. So today we're going to talk a little bit of both, but mostly focus in the prospects. As we look towards what we currently have, the first thing you want to do is look at your own list. Certainly there's individuals, and every ministry, the different categories are broken down. What is a major donor for the Jesus film might be different than would be for Here's Life Inner City, or might be for Christian Embassy, might be different. For Dan, a major donor might be $50,000. For Here's Life Inner City, it might be $5,000. But when we're talking about major donors here, we're generally talking about someone that's going to be in the $10,000 to $25,000 range. So if that gives you somewhat of an idea. But you might have individuals currently on your mailing list who have either given that amount of money already, or they are somewhere on the bubble. They might be giving $2,500 to $5,000, or they might have the capability to give that amount of money. And so you want to assess the situation and say, who do I have that is currently in this range, in the giving range, who's near that range, and who has the potential to be in the major donor range. So you need to look at your own mailing list. So you want to look at your current general fund and your project donors. Number two, don't forget your staff financial partners as well too. Now, for some of you, a shiver just went up your spine, and you're starting to cringe already. Staff donors, boy, oh boy. Well, I'll tell you, in the campus ministry, one of the smartest things we did a number of years back was we began to open the door a crack at a time with our staff, letting them know that we were going to begin to cultivate the relationships with their financial partners. Initially, it was not easy. Some of our staff said, wow, these are our donors. They only love us. I've got the personal relationship with them. And I always had to laugh when I would call a staff member and say, we'd really like to talk with one of your ministry partners. Oh, they only give to me. Their relationship is only with me, and I know they wouldn't want to do anything. I'm looking at their giving history. They help 15 staff, three different ministries in Crusade. I'm saying, so only you, is that okay? Just wanted to clarify that. But it's important. What we want to do is we want to begin to develop the trust so that our staff will feel comfortable. In doing so, it really broadened, especially with the campus ministry, really broadened our base. We were able to invite more people to major donor events. Certainly our direct mail began to grow from that standpoint. And from our major donor side of things, people felt more and more comfortable. So certainly it might take some time, but I would definitely don't forget or don't neglect your personal staff support donors. Start with yours. Put your donors out there as a good faith gesture. Don't be afraid to go to your ministry partners and challenge them for the ministry first. Allow it to work, and then start to get some of the other ministry leaders, and then build from there. Now, how to find major prospects on your list. We're going to look at those in detail a little bit more. First of all, you want to begin to look at some of the reports that Campus Crusade has out there and is available. First one is essentially a 10K report, and you want to begin to, and certainly you can do a number of these things online through PeopleSoft, and there's help out there. Maxine Blackwood can help you. Mike Fleetwood and his office can help you get some of these reports. But 10K report essentially is looking at who is currently given to my particular ministry. Next, what you want to do is you want to begin to look at statements from outside organizations. Look to see the companies or corporations, if you get any corporate funding, or if you're funded by any foundations, what you want to begin to look at, what are some of the financial reports and financial statements that are out there? Foundations have to submit 990 PF tax returns. And so look at those things and begin to evaluate the foundations either that currently give to you or foundations that you have done your research and you've targeted. One thing that I would suggest that you do, whenever you do foundation research as an example, in any of the foundation directories and foundation materials, there's always a list of who those officers are. And you can get those offline. One of the things I would recommend you doing is if you've got a board of directors or a board of advisors, or even a handful of major donors, take some of those names to those people and to say, do you know any of these people who are on these lists? Or start to begin to collect those through other sources. We'll talk about that in a minute, but use the connections from the people that you currently have that are your current ministry partners and ask them if they know any of these people. Because chances are, especially in a smaller community, somebody is on a board with somebody else, somebody's in Lions Club with someone, they go to church with someone, they play golf with someone. Utilize those relationships that are out there. Number 3, magazines, Forbes, Fortune, Inc. If you see someone listed in those magazines, and I recommend different subscriptions to magazines. Now, I know the cost it's expensive, and maybe it means you just go into your public library, but spend some time looking at different publications just to find out, are there certain individuals who have an interest or show an interest? Next is newspapers, of course. USA Today I think it's a great source because they put a lot of obscure things in there. Certainly there always, almost every issue has 3 or 4 or 5 of the little boxes, that have different things in there. But they've got obscure companies, obscure up-and-coming companies, and generally they'll have some kind of an interest in charitable things, or and in some cases you'll see in ministries, in something that might be religious or something that might even be evangelical. So it's part of what Larry mentioned earlier, was that development eyes. You need to begin to sort of keep the radar out there all the time. Again, going back to foundation directories, I wouldn't say that by no means is that the first place you should go, but certainly don't neglect those possibilities. If you're sitting in a soccer game and someone says, I'm on the board of XYZ Foundation, make sure you jot that down, and then the next Monday call them and say, hey Fred, I heard you were on XYZ Foundation. I'm part of a ministry, Campus Crusade for Christ, and I would love to talk with you a little bit. Is that the kind of thing that your foundation supports? Look for those opportunities, because they come available from time to time. And sometimes there are foundations whose interests are Campus Crusade, but there's also foundations out there who they will specifically allow individuals who are on their board or trustees on the board to have pet projects that they help. And if you have a good relationship with one of those board members, you may become one of those pet projects that they help that might even be a bit outside the realm of what they do. I mentioned 990 PFs, which list all the organizations that particular foundations. Let's say you've got a foundation in your town, the XYZ Foundation. You go out and you look for a 990 PF on them, and you find that they support Young Life and Navigators. Well, maybe there's a possibility that their heart is with youth and ministering to youth. So you may use that as a sort of a cross-reference and challenge those that particular foundation for our needs. Now, it might be that they've, one of the board members' brother and cousin are with those ministries, and that's fine. You find that out through some research. Now, of course, there's research service agencies, and I know some of the ministries in this room have used companies to actually search for the net worth, the value of that. Campus Crusade is currently paying an annual fee to a service that does that. There's search agencies that's all they do. And ladies and gentlemen, I don't think any of you are naive enough to know that or believe that everything about us is out there somewhere on the internet nowadays. It's amazing. When I was looking I happened to put just a handful of donors through this list the service that Mike had, and also added some personal supporters onto that. I was amazed at how people that I was very close friends with, I had no idea about some of the things that they had, from property to what they contributed to politically and to charities. It was amazing. But anyway, just know that that's out there, and use it with the best intentions, of course, honorably. Use it as what it is. It's a service to get you started. Question, John? Well, the question for the tape is, if we come across a name of someone, how do we broach a subject if we really don't have a lot of connections with them? The first thing I always like to try and do is I always like to try and find a connection somehow. You know, if you find that they gave a donation to a particular church or an effort, I will call some friends that I might know that are part of that church and say, hey, by the way, do you know so-and-so? Oh yeah, he's an elder at our church. What do you need to know about him? Well, you know, I've noticed from some of my research that, you know, he's a very charitable individual. You don't have to give any details, but I wondered if you would mind introducing me to him. So I like to try and find connections like that. The electronic media, you know, certainly looking for in news sources, you know, there's almost any publication or news source online nowadays. You don't have to go to your public library like you did 10 or 15 years ago. And you can begin to do some searches on individuals as well, too. Just simply going in, you'd be amazed at what you come up with just Googling the names of some of your major donors. Okay, now referrals. And this is a bit about what I was kind of talking about. I like to use referrals as much as I possibly can. Although I do it, I don't love using cold calls. It's not the best. I don't, you know, I sort of feel like when I'm making cold calls and I'm in some boiler room, you know, working for a financial company, you know, down for dollars. And I always like to use referrals when I can do it. Financial partners tend to give names that have similar socioeconomic status. Now, what that means is that if you are interested in finding out if someone is a major donor or getting the names of individuals who might be potentially major donors, who do you go to? You go to other major donors. So just understand that concept that major donors generally hang around with other individuals who have the same capability of giving. Now, why do we find that sometimes there's a problem with people not giving referrals? And that's probably a question and probably a problem that you've run through. Number one, first of all, we don't ask people enough. We certainly don't. I mean, every appointment that you have, every person that you leave an appointment, your last point needs to always be, are there other individuals, if you were in my situation, are there individuals that you would think would be important for me to talk with? Number two, got a little bit of a problem when we did the conversion there. Lack of confidence in the long-term ability of the ministry to do their job. If a ministry partner does not have confidence in the leadership and the direction of the ministry, there's a problem. And unfortunately, you don't find that out until you start to ask them for referrals. They may be saying, I like the ministry and like what you're doing, but when push comes to shove and you're asking them for referrals, that may be when you find out what their true feelings are about you. C, lack of sufficient cultivation by the ministry. Lack of sufficient cultivation. And essentially what that is, have you done your job of developing a relationship with this person? Have you done everything that you could to make the person feel like they're an owner, a partner, a shareholder with you? If they feel like they own the ministry, they own the financial part of it as well, then they're going to want to help you. D, lack of confidence in the ministry's ability to treat their friends with care. Another area where you will find out, do they feel loved and appreciated? If they don't feel loved and appreciated, then they certainly are not going to want to bring their friends on. But if they are feeling loved and appreciated, then certainly they're willing to say, hey, I don't have any problem with you contacting my friends. You've treated me good. I know that you're going to treat my friends well. Approaches to getting referrals. The first approach is through mail, and this is generally through a larger ministry, and it's something as simple as putting out a postcard where they can write the names of individuals who would be interested. You know, the question essentially would be, do you have any friends who might be interested in hearing about this ministry? Okay, number two, by the phone. Simply picking up the phone. Fred, you've been a faithful ministry partner, you and Mary, for a lot of years, and we're right now in the process of trying to identify those individuals like you and Mary who really love this ministry, and we want to begin to build that, but that starts from new relationships in many cases. And so we'd like to know, are there individuals who you believe would be interested in what the ministry is doing? And we'd love to talk with them. Event invitations. What a great way to get people not only to come, which means that you get a new name, but number two, to get a new donor. That's why I love banquets. I'm, sort of the banquet advocate for Campus Crusade for Christ. I've done over 2,000 banquets in the last 20 years, specifically because I love that banquets are a great way to bring in new names and specifically new donors. And it's a great way to introduce people to the ministry, sometimes for the first time, and it gets them excited. It's that winning process, and then you move them in through the cultivation, that's the keeping, and then get them to a major donor event. That's the lifting, and then developing the relationship face to face. So important, but event invitations, great way to get new prospective ministry partners. Face to face, go and meet with people. You can, when you're a major donor rep, your territory is the Midwest, you go into Chicago and you're just having a good time with one of your ministry partners, just ask them, Fred, Mary, again, you've been faithful ministry partners with us. Are there people that, since we've talked last, are there people that you think maybe have joined your Sunday school class or been new members to your corporation, your company, that you think would be good people to be partners with us?